The sun filtered through the tall windows, casting a warm glow across the kitchen. The comforting sense of fresh herbs and roasting meat filled the air as I stirred a pot of freshly cut vegetables. Still, a knot of worry lingered in my mind as I glanced out the window, waiting for Henry to arrive. "Mary, could you please chop those carrots a little finer?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. I glanced at her, noting her diligence. It was a small detail, but I needed everything to be just right.
Of course, Miss Elizabeth,
she replied, her enthusiasm a welcome distraction. "Thank you," I said, forcing a smile. I appreciated her efforts more than I could express. She made the long days easier. "Thomas, how's the roast coming along?" I called out, my heart racing slightly as I looked toward the hearth.
"It's simmering nicely, miss.
He said, stirring with care.
Just like you taught me."
"Excellent," I urged, my mind already racing ahead to Henry's return. His temper could flare without warning, and I wanted to avoid any triggers this morning. As I worked, a soft knock echoed through the cabin. "That must be him," I murmured, hurrying to the front door. I took a steadying breath before swinging it open. Henry stood there, his expression neutral, but his eyes sharp.
"Elizabeth,"
he said, his voice steady but lacking warmth. "Henry!" I greeted, stepping aside to let him in. I forced myself to smile, hoping to mask the tension building inside me. "We've prepared a feast for you. How was your trip?"
"It was long.
He replied, his tone clipped.
I hope you didn't burn anything."
"No, of course not," I assured him, trying to maintain an upbeat tone. I made your favorite roast with fresh vegetables." He nodded but didn't smile, and my heart sank a little. As Henry walked toward the dining room, I quickly took his coat and hung it by the door. "Please, have a seat," I said, guiding him to the table. I wanted him to relax, to enjoy the meal, but I also knew how easily things could turn. Mary quietly entered, her eyes downcast as she placed the steaming platter of roast on the table. The air felt heavy with tension, and I could sense her unease. "So, how was your week?" I asked, trying to break the silence as Mary served the food. Henry sighed, his expression hardening.
"I'm very tired, Elizabeth. Can you not ask me anymore?"
His tone was sharp, sending a chill through me. "Of course," I replied softly. "I'll be in my room if you need anything," I said, trying to keep my voice steady, but he didn't even look at me. I felt the familiar ache in my chest as I turned away, walking to my room. Closing the door softly behind me, I leaned against it, letting out a shaky breath. The quiet wrapped around me, amplifying the loneliness I felt. We had never truly shared warmth or connection. To him, I was just another presence in this house, an addition to the servants he barely acknowledged. As I leaned against the door, lost in my thoughts, a sudden crash shattered the silence. My heart raced as I recognized the sound of breaking glass from the dining room. I hurried to the doorway, peering into the room just in time to see him throwing the remains of the meal onto the floor.
"After a long, tiring week, this is all I get,"
he shouted, his frustration boiling over. The roast was clearly undercooked, and I felt a pang of regret for not ensuring it was perfect. I flinched at his words, feeling the weight of his disappointment. He stood abruptly and stormed out of the room, leaving chaos behind him. Moments later, Thomas and Mary rushed in, their expressions a mix of concern and urgency.
are you all right, Miss Elizabeth?
Mary asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'm fine," I replied, but I could see the worry in their eyes. Together, we knelt to pick up the broken plates and scattered food, the shards reflecting the tension that had just filled the room.
"I'm sorry, miss,"
Thomas said, his voice laced with regret. "It's okay," I reassured him, though my heart felt heavy. As I reached to gather more pieces, I accidentally cut my finger on a sharp shard. A gasp escaped my lips, and the sight of the blood made my stomach twist. Panicking, I quickly stood up, the pain jolting me into action. I moved to the sink, my thoughts racing as I tried to steady myself. I hoped the sting would fade, just as I wished the morning's troubles would vanish. As I stood by the sink, trying to steady myself, Mary rushed toward me, concern etched on her face.
Miss Elizabeth, are you all right?
She asked, her voice shaking slightly as she examined my hand. The wound was deeper than I realized, and the blood continued to flow, warm against my skin. Panic surged through me as I realized how serious it was. "It's just a cut," I murmured, but I could see the worry in her eyes.
No, it's not just a cut.
Mary insisted gently.
It needs to be disinfected. We should go to the nearest herb shop in town for some medicine.
I hesitated, the morning's chaos still swirling in my mind. "Do you really think it's that bad?"
Please, let me help you.
She urged, her voice firm yet caring. Reluctantly, I nodded. With Mary's support, I wrapped a cloth around my hand to slow the bleeding. "All right, let's go," I said, trying to summon courage. Together we prepared to leave the cabin, hoping the fresh air would clear my mind and the herbs would provide the relief I needed. As Mary and I made our way outside, I saw Thomas carefully handling the broken dishes, his expression focused and determined.
Take care, Miss Elizabeth,
he said, glancing up briefly as he continued picking up the shards. The concern in his eyes was clear, but I understood he had his hands full. We climbed into the horse-drawn cart, the gentle creak of the wood punctuating the morning air. Harvey, one of our loyal servants, took the reins, guiding the horses with a steady hand. The sun shone brightly, casting a golden hue over the landscape. The breeze was refreshing, carrying the sweet scent of blooming flowers and the earthy aroma of freshly turned soil. As we traveled, fields of crops unfurled around us, vibrant green stalks swaying gently in the wind. Trees lined the road, their leaves rustling softly, adding to the peaceful symphony of nature. The world outside felt alive and promising, a stark contrast to the chaos we had just left behind. When we arrived in the small town, a wave of sensations washed over me. The streets were bustling with villagers, their laughter and chatter filling the air. Small houses with painted shutters and flower boxes lined the streets, each one adding to the charm of the place. The marketplace was alive with activity vendors called out, showcasing their goods, and children darted through the crowds, their energy infectious. Mary stayed close, her presence a comfort as we stepped down from the cart.
Let's find what you need quickly,
she urged, glancing around with a mix of determination and concern. I appreciated her support, knowing that together we would navigate this vibrant town in search of the herbs that might offer me relief. As Mary and I stepped down from the cart, Harvey remained behind, waiting patiently for our return. We made our way through the bustling streets toward the medical herb shop, the vibrant atmosphere lifting my spirits even amid the pain from my wound. As we entered the shop, I was greeted by the delightful scent of fresh herbs. The air was rich with earthy fragrances, and various plants hung from the ceiling, their leaves gently swaying. I took a deep breath, momentarily distracted from the throbbing in my hand.
Is anyone here?
Mary called out, her voice carrying through the small space. I winced as another wave of pain shot through my finger, reminding me of the urgency of our visit. Moments later, a man emerged from a small room at the back of the shop. He stood there, taking in the sight of us, his gaze locking onto mine.
Elizabeth?
Recognition washed over me and I felt a rush of emotions. It was Louis, a familiar face from my past. He looked different now, more mature, with sharper features that only highlighted the boyish charm I remembered. I just stood there, momentarily speechless, lost in the memories of the past.
Do you know him?
Mary asked, glancing between us. Yes, I replied, my voice barely above a whisper. I felt a tension hanging in the air, unspoken words lingering between Louis and me. Mary, could you give us a moment? I asked, my heart racing. I needed to speak with Louis alone. Mary hesitated for a moment, her concern evident, but finally nodded.
I'll be right outside,
she said, stepping back to give us privacy. As the door closed behind her, I could feel the weight of Louis's gaze on me, an unsteady mix of familiarity and distance hanging in the air.